Hello, welcome to Dissident Canada. My name is Tyler, and today I'd like to talk about something that's been going on for a while, off and on, reaching peaks and valleys on season and off season of what's required and kind of why it's happening. And that it really started with say the success of Donald Trump. So give it about 10 years of what it's been doing, at least on internet spaces. And what I'm talking about is the siloing of content. And I don't mean the, a creator creating their own little off platform place where they put content and it's siloed because it's very hard to get people to move from platform to platform. No, I'm talking about what is likely being done in coordination with governments by platform creators and holders to maximize slash minimize, maximize the amount of silos, minimize the amount of people in a given silo, um, to create a fractured reality. Now, obviously, some of this is going to be organic with the way the internet is, um, and how information is disseminated. You're going to see, people create their own little bubbles, their own silos in this case, of information. But if you look at, say, your favorite creator, you've likely seen that they've plateaued in, say, like in the last 10 years. Maybe it's because they've hit maximum market saturation. I highly doubt that. Um, my theory is that they are, whatever the size they got to, all right, they'll be limited to that so that their reach is limited. Now, a lot of content creators talk about this all the time, shadow banning and blah, blah, blah. It sounds like bitching, and it is to a certain extent, but it is extremely interesting to be more or less on the outside. Yes, I create content on here, but like, if I gave a flying fuck about growth metrics, I wouldn't be talking about the stuff I did because it's not what you talk about to grow. I talk about stuff because I'm interested in it, and some people find it interesting. Anyways, um, you can see, like, even with certain creators, how should we say this? Finding better and better ways to broadcast their reach outside of, say, the standard content platforms and how you would go about growing your channel aren't growing at the rates you would expect, not growing at the rates that they saw, say, again, prior to 2020. Or not 2020. God damn it. I mean, yes, prior to 2020, but also prior to, say, 2016 with the election of Donald Trump. And a large portion of why he won was because of the online content creator space pushing Donald Trump and memeing him. Like, that was extremely important. And if you don't think the powers that be weren't going to react to that, well. But, anyways, besides me trying to justify this thing's existence, that's I think is very easy to justify and see if you just take a look at your favorite creator and just randomly track, engagement, publicly available engagement. Now, I think those numbers are also cooked, but I don't trust anybody, so take everything with a grain of salt, as always. Um, the reason you would do this is create a multi-fractured reality. Is look at what happened prior to the internet, when you had but a few informational sources. You had books, you had newspapers, and you had, you know, just radio, TV. We'll lump that in together, and they all created a structured reality that everybody more or less agreed to. There was, let's say, plus or minus 15% that you could disagree with and still be within acceptable terms of reality. All right? So, not that big of a disagreement was allowed. Now, if you look post 2016, post internet, you have a near infinite amount of these siloed realities and where people are getting their information. And it's created a multi fractured reality in which nobody can agree what the hell is going on. Which it's a very fascinating divide and conquer technique. You allow everybody to speak, but you control the reach mechanisms, and you divert people away who would be drawn to that content. Like, if I go on YouTube and I'm watching, you know, a George Gammon video, all right, my recommended underneath is really, really, really weird. Like, it'll be like a few interesting topics that are somewhat related by creators I follow, and then it'll just be the rest is all, well, this is what's acceptable. Like, the counter narrative push is ridiculous. Like, I don't engage with any of that content. Like, I'll get recommended shit from Bloomberg, and it's like, I hate Bloomberg. I believe I follow them on X just because seeing their ridiculousness is hilarious, and seeing what is, what does the financial sector want the reality to be? What are they trying to push? But like, you can pick very small, relatively insignificant events that happen, and you'll have everybody's take on it, and most people have differing flavors of basically the same thing, but you can't get to a united consensus. Now, do you kind of get a consensus on the left? Sort of, but when you look at the left's consensus, it's basically an etch-a-sketch, all right? That you hold up from, hour to hour. It's a new picture, and they all agree, yep, whatever you say, boss, let's go. So their reality of, the lefty loons is ever changing, and they're all siloed into their own little craziness to an attempt to control them, although doesn't seem to be working all too well. I mean, it's working, but it's not the best job they could be doing. Whereas you look at more of, say, normal average people, right, more politically aware right-leaning people, you see instances of like, well, this guy is doing good work, puts out good information. Why aren't they bigger? Well, they have unacceptable beliefs, and they destroy narratives. Like, look at Alex Jones. Alex Jones has been there he's been doing this, for 30 some odd years now? It was 94 or something when he started? So yeah, say about 30 years. And lots of people know of Alex Jones, but the dedicated amount of people who watch Alex Jones, especially in the post-COVID world where Alex was extremely accurate with his predictions and what was going on, you would expect just InfoWars in general to have a higher audience and be at that point where you could say they are the first real news media agency on the internet, that's solely on the internet. Like, and what I mean by that, I mean like think of like pick an MSN channel, all right, and now move that directly over to the internet, and to a certain extent, yeah, Alex and Infowars are that, but you would expect them to be much, much bigger in the current political environment. Like watching Alex Jones is extremely entertaining. Like the man knows how to entertain and knows how to say things in such a way that draws you in. And yet, it's very hard to see organic growth with Alex. Like he's basically plateaued. And yet, he's doing extremely important and extremely good work. And yet you can see, you know, guys like Mr. Beast continually growing with their dumb shit. Now, obviously, Mr. Beast understands how the algorithm works like no other and does crazy dumb shit that draws in, first time viewers for a little bit, but then people drop off. And he is gearing his stuff towards children, so there is a predatory nature there of going after children that should possibly be investigated. Um, there's some bad faith stuff there behind the scenes with how he markets and sells stuff. But you would think in a freer market, no, I'm not saying it's a free market, but in a freer market, the value that, say, Alex Jones and InfoWars provides would push them higher than, say, Mr. Beast with his shock jock kind of entertainment uh, value. And yet it's the complete opposite. And, like, the more you get pushed towards that, Mr. Beast style content and less towards good information like Alex Jones, you can tell there's the obvious algorithmic manipulations, especially if you're watching, constantly, searching YouTube for, good information, or you can really say any content anywhere. You should eventually be drawn towards InfoWars at a certain point. Um, it's the same thing if you're like super into, say, the JFK assassination and what actually happened there, which a lot of people are, especially in recent months with more disclosures happening and more information being released. I would suspect that a channel like America's Untold Stories, which has a heavy focus on telling, what Eric, mostly what Mark's found about the assassination, you would expect that channel to grow in proportion to people's to the zeitgeist, but it's not happening. And again, they put out extremely good information and are filling in holes that I don't think a lot of people understand were there. So yeah, this siloing is extremely interesting, and I specifically see this being dramatically increased in Canada, uh, post 2022, post Freedom Convoy, and you can see it very easily if you just go on X and you can see the silo yes men of, Con Inc. just endlessly repeating themselves. Of basically same take, and yet, you can find people who have much better takes on what's happening on Canada with much better conclusions and very, very nearly no growth. Like, statistically suspect growth. Considering, especially right now when you look at what's going on with the forest fires. You know, people, you've got multiple prevailing narratives, and they don't exactly fit. But what they do is fracture reality, and we can't come to a, well, this is the likeliest thing, and how do we, you know, deal with it? Now, in the case of the forest fires, how you deal with that is really freaking easy. Mass civil disobedience stops it. When the government's facade of power breaks, they are forced to take either the hard power option, which is detestable, and they need a facade, as you can see that with again the Freedom Convoy, the backlash to the violence that was used by the police, and what appeared to be at least some type of military units were there as well. I know military counterintelligence was there, for sure. They were doing shit. Um, but the backlash to the violence was right across Canada now. Obviously, you have the vocal minority of retards pushing that, oh yeah, we're totally in favor of this. But again, vocal minority. A lot of Canadians were shocked by the violence that were used on Canadian citizens who were peacefully protesting and who cleaned up fucking Ottawa. Do not forget that. All the statistics, like if you were to go by month, okay, of important statistics of like crime, incidents with the homeless, all of that went down while the Freedom Convoy was there. They helped clean up Ottawa better than anybody has. Anyways, and if you again look from the Canadian government's perspective, you wouldn't want to have another incident like the Freedom Convoy, which was a global event. Don't forget that. Where you saw that the government's facade of power was just gone. They really couldn't do anything until they invoked, well, they were doing it before the invocation of the Emergencies Act, but they had to go to far extremes to deal with the situation. And you can't have that on the national stage because you look weak and feckless, which most governments are. You have to project power, especially in Western nations, without the use of power directly on your citizens. Otherwise, you run risks of a French style revolution, which nobody wants a French style revolution except crazy people because they think they can control it. At best, you'd want an American revolution, but really, again, you definitely do not want something like that because it very quickly becomes out of control. Hence why you silo reality. You create multiple fracture points in which and you increase online interactions, decrease in-person interactions, which allows the point of, if someone disagrees with you online, the instant reaction is not to be, hey, no, here, we can discuss this more. It's, well, fuck you. And to go to the extreme point of that scenario. Hey, everybody falls for it. I'm not saying here being a saint, saying I don't do that. I do that. But I also do it in real life. The amount of times I tell people, fuck you, you're wrong, in real life versus online is basically 1-to-1. I probably don't do it as much online as I do it in real life because I'm not going to get through to someone online. Whereas I have a chance in reality to be like, no, fuck you, you're wrong, here. Then again, I am of the belief that one of the most important things you can say to someone is "fuck you, you're wrong." And it's because think of how comfortable you have to be with that person, and uh, how dedicated in your belief that you have to be that to fix what you see as wrong or incorrect. To be, whoa, 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 hold up, you're fucking wrong. Let's talk about this. Now you may get nowhere, but at least the other person knows you're being fucking honest with them. Yeah, so that's the whole strategy with this siloing. It's to prevent a unification, because like, and it's to prevent this unification. Like, what was it, a week or two ago? Tucker Carlson had on Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks, and I have been saying this for a while. Someone is freaking red pilling her slowly but surely. She's gonna come out as a Trumplican almost, or that type of, be like, well, I'm a left wing populist, uh, but like, Trump isn't that bad. Like, she may get to that point, which is really funny. But like, the Young Turks, extremely far left uh, organization run by Cenk Uygur, also extremely far left. But every once in a while, they have takes where you're like, okay, you're actually being reasonable. This is extremely dangerous for the powers that be, because if we, the people, recognize that the ideological divide isn't that of, say, 50 or 60%, but of 10 to 15%, and that I have more in common with, say, Anna Kasparian when it comes to, yeah, I'm super fucking anti-war, we've got problems at home, let's fucking deal with them instead. We may disagree with the details, but I'm pretty sure I could win her over when, if I did a trial run on my plans and it started to show extremely effective, and prove that her version of reality would be, or not version of reality, but her solutions would be wrong. But like, the reason why that interview was so important, at least in my mind, is it shows that, like, Tucker Carlson, who is seen as, kind of a kooky right winger, and Anna Kasparian is shown as a kooky left winger, those are the prevailing narratives, agree on quite a lot and can sit down and have a reasonable conversation where, you have an important conversation and it feels like ideas are being properly exchanged, and you're, say, grinding down to a point that allows you to get shit done. Can't have that nowadays. Hence why you would silo information, and you would keep the Anna Kasparians of the world away from the Tucker Carlsons from the world, and you would definitely suppress the ever-living fuck out of the episode in which they do talk to each other. It's always important to at least hear the other side, even if they're stupid communists. Well, that's the video for today. See you tomorrow with something. I have no idea. I am spending most of my time thinking about how Friday goes with the Alaska summit between Trump and Putin. But there's not much really to, just kind of a wait and see situation. So, until the next video tomorrow, have a good day.